Photo 1 students, this is Miss Miller, your Photo 1 teacher. We are going to review some elements of Photoshop that might help you enhance the traditional collages that we've been working on. So after we cut and paste and put some matte medium over them, we did photograph them with the idea of being able to upload them into Photoshop. So this is one. I just grabbed one from the lesson folder. And I just wanted to review a few things about Photoshop because I know it's been a while since you guys used it. So one of the first things I encourage you to do is to go up here to the window or menu right here in the menu bar and then go to window, workspace, and make sure it's set to photography. So this helps create different workspaces depending on what type of digital imaging you're doing. And so this one is set up more for photographers. So you should have your tool palette on your left, you should have, or your toolbox. And then on the right, you should have some palettes. You might have a histogram and a layer palette. So one of the second things I want you to do, and you should always do with any image, is just go ahead and make a duplicate image. Photoshop allows us to work in layers, which is really nice. It allows us to kind of experiment with an image, but also not destroy the original image. So, and we can sort of test things out with layers. It's easy to get rid of layers if you don't like an effect. And you guys played with this when you were doing your digital collages. So go up here to layer, duplicate layer, and then that's fine, background copy, and hit OK. So if you go over here to your layer palette, you should have two layers now, your original background and this copy layer we made. If for some reason you don't see your layer palette, just make sure it's not set on channels or paths, that you actually have the layer palette, the layer tab highlighted. If you still don't see layers at all, go over here to window and make sure your layer palette is turned on. So you can turn, and again, there's tons of palettes that you can have open in your workspace. These are just basic ones, and anything that's checked should show up on your workspace. So just make sure the layer palette is checked. All right, so the second step is we are going to rotate this image, because for some reason when I photographed them, when it uploaded them, it turned them into this vertical format, even though I photographed them in a horizontal format. So we're going to go up here to image rotation, and then you can see you can do 180, 90 degrees clockwise, counterclockwise. You can do a reverse. So we're just going to tilt it upright so that we can see it right reading. So I'm just going to hit 90 degrees clockwise, and so now I can see it, how it's supposed to be viewed. The next step is that we're going to crop this image. So we're going to go over here to our toolbar. Remember, toolbars, again, allow you to do adjustments and enhancements. To know what a tool does, you can hover your mouse over a tool and it will pop up with the title and also perhaps a little video demoing how the tool works. There are also more tools hidden. So the ones that are visible, there's way more tools. To see hidden tools, you can click on the little arrow in the bottom corner and it will show you other tools that are similar or associated with this tool. And then if you want to see all the tools, you can go over here to this little these little three dots, and I think you'll see a bunch of other tools. You can also have your toolbar in a double column or single column. If you click on this little double arrow here. Sorry, the bell rang. So you can toggle between single column and double column by clicking this little arrow. I like to have mine a double column because sometimes my screen cuts off stuff, and so it just is easier for me to view. So the first tool that we're going to use is the cropping tool. The cropping tool basically will crop our image, which is what we need to do. I tried to, when I photograph it, crop it as close to the top and bottom as I could. But obviously because it's square, it left the sides. So select your cropping tool. Whenever you select a tool, it should highlight it up here in this tool option bar. And we're just going to do a simple crop. So you can move these little sliders like here, and you might want to crop into it slightly so you get a nice clean edge. Like that. And then you hit enter to confirm that you have cropped it. So that looks a lot better. You can use other tools. You can use the zoom tool, which looks like a magnifying glass, to zoom in. And you can really, really zoom in. So you can, and then you can sort of, I think you can sort of move the mouse around so that you can see different sections of it when it's enlarged. This allows you to work on a particular section or a small detail of the composition if you want. To zoom out, you're in the zoom tool, and I think you hold down the shift key, or sorry, no, the alt key, and then you'll see that little plus change to a minus, and then you can zoom out. And then if it fails or it kind of gets stuck or doesn't work right, you can always go up to view, fit on screen, and it kind of gets it back to normal. And you can also change the view here. It has zoom in and zoom out. You can also see it in different views, like at a certain percentage, and also the print size of how it will look when it's printed. This is a good way to tell if the resolution is going to be good. If there are any areas that look pixelated, you should be able to see it in this view. All right, so I thought it would be fun for you guys to play around and maybe do some adjustments to enhance the collage. So just to review some of the things that you can play around with. So we're going to go up to image adjustments, and you can play around with all of these. Brightness and contrast. This kind of makes your darker areas darker, and it contrasts with the lighter areas so that it seems brighter. You can also change the brightness, so that's something that you could play around with. If you hit OK, it keeps that enhancement. If you go up to Edit, Undo, it gets rid of it. Okay. Another adjustment that you can play around with, and so brightness, contrast, levels, curves all deal with contrast, bright, lights and darks, and the tonality of your picture. The second set deals with color. So hue and saturation is a fun one where you can move the slider and it kind of shifts the colors. So hue will actually change the color. The saturation will make it really bright, or if you turn the saturation all the way down, that's how you can make an image black and white. And then the lightness and darkness of an image as well. or the color. So again, if you hit OK, it keeps it. You can also hit cancel if you don't. You go back to image adjustments. We'll look at some of these other ones that might be fun to play around with, but you know, the photo filter is kind of fun. This kind of adds just a nice subtle color change or overlay. So like a sepia, and there's other colors that you can use like magenta. And that's a good way to maybe add or change the color. So I'll just leave that. And then one thing I did want you guys to do and experiment with is to actually select parts of the picture and change it instead of just changing the overall picture. So I did want to go over some of the selection tools that are available to you. Here you have the marquee tool, which you can select different shapes, rectangle, elliptical, and this just allows you to select a simple shape or part of your composition. And then it will only change what's inside that box. So I could go up here to image adjustments and then, you know, change the color of that so it's different. And then I can hit OK. So that could be a fun way to add to your collage. To unselect something, just go to select, deselect, and then, you know, you might play around with another shape. Like here's the elliptical. And then again, I could go to image, adjustments. I could change it to black and white. So that adds another effect to it. So those are simple selection tools. There are some other selection tools that I encourage you to play around with. The quick selection is a good tool for selecting, you know, more of the form or complex form of an image. Like I just did this A. So again, you just kind of drag it across and I can make an adjustment. Some other selection tools that allow you to refine your selection as opposed to just making a shape. Um, Obviously, the quick selection. There's also the lasso tool. I don't like this tool. I think it's hard to use sometimes, but basically it's a free form. So you just kind of draw, and I'm just using the mouse around your figure or whatever it is you want to work with. I didn't do such a good job. But again, with something like this, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then again, I could go up to my adjustments. I could probably add a filter. Remember you can add filters, a little filter gallery um, will pop up. Remember it blows it up. So if you want to minimize it so you can see, and it's only going to show me what I selected. But there are all sorts of cool little filters and artistic filters that you could play around with. I know some of you are having trouble with your filter gallery, so just if you are, bring it up to me and we'll try to figure it out. So you can experiment with different filters. I'll just leave it like that. And then I'm going to hit OK. And again, remember, if you don't like something, one thing you can do is go up to, well, here, hit select, deselect, but you can go up to edit undo, and step backwards.